Here we go. Tennessee Republicans proving that they're not for freedom of speech whatsoever. Three Democratic lawmakers were being expelled for protesting against gun violence.
This was the scene on the House floor in Tennessee, where protesters swarmed to protest gun violence after the tragic Nashville school shooting last week. Lawmakers are seeking to remove three Democrats from office. They're accused of disrupting proceedings by joining the protesters.
Joining us now is one of the members potentially facing expulsion, State Representative Justin Jones. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so just start with walking us through what happened and why the GOP is seeking to remove you after you spoke out.
I mean, I think it is morally insane that a week after a mass shooting impacted Nashville, I represent a part of Nashville. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle, their first action is to expel their colleagues for joining the thousands of Tennesseans who are demanding common sense gun laws. We were calling for a ban on assault weapons, and instead my colleagues have responded by assaulting our democracy and taking the unprecedented step of expelling us for standing with the people and for speaking out and demanding that our House act on gun legislation when they cut off our mics and refused to allow us to talk on the issue on the House floor.
So, first of all, does the GOP, does the party, the opposition, do Republicans have the power to do this? And what kind of a precedent is it setting?
The Republicans make up the supermajority of Tennessee, and that's what it requires to expel people. The question is, do they have the constitutional authority to do this? We believe that this is going to set a very dangerous precedent, that there's never been a completely partisan expulsion of opposition voices in Tennessee history. And
They're literally trying to do a purge of the political opposition, and Republicans are always harping about how Democrats attack their political opponents. What are these people in Tennessee doing?
This is a very scary time. It's going to have implications nationwide. That if this happens in Tennessee, it's going to set the tone across the nation. That if lawmakers are voices of opposition, they can be expelled for strictly partisan reasons. And what they're doing is they're not just silencing us as lawmakers, but they're silencing over 70,000 people in my district, and all together over 200,000 people in the three of our districts who are being silenced and who are being their will is being overturned by a group of extreme lawmakers who are drunk with power and who are trying to distract from the issue that we need the common sense gun legislation in Tennessee, and we need to remove these weapons of war from our streets.
What, in your view, does this say about the state of our democracy, and what are you going to do?
The state of our democracy, Tennessee is signaling that the state of our democracy is in danger, that this is a clear and present danger to democracy across the nation. We had members of Congress from across different states even talking about this. The White House press secretary even talked about this yesterday. This is a scary time in Tennessee. And the House Speaker Cameron Sexton lied to the media and tried to portray these young people and mothers and grandparents as insurrectionists. He said it was worse than January 6th to try and justify his attack on democracy, to try and justify his attack on silencing the people in Tennessee.
Right-wingers now love to claim like any kind of protest that the left wing does is some kind of insurrection, especially if they go around to government buildings and stuff, because they want to try to equate what they did on January 6th with peaceful protesters and try to make it seem like the people that got arrested on January 6th are just good guys.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to keep standing with the people. We're going to keep demanding and pushing the issue that brought us here in the first place. The fact that 6 people lost their lives, including 3 9-year-olds, a preventable death from a mass shooting. And we need to take action to remove these weapons of war from our community. We should not be assaulting democracy. We should not be leaning into authoritarianism, but we need to stand firm and make sure that constitutional rights are upheld and that the people's voice is upheld in the people's house.
So what steps would you like to see legislators take to combat gun violence?
If we go on like constitutional rights as like the founding fathers set out, like the way Republicans want to do with gun laws, well then it's definitely illegal to expel these people just for using their freedom of speech, because nowhere in the Constitution is that allowed.
Violence in your state.
We have called for red flag laws. We have called for universal background check. We have called for an assault weapons ban. They have not even allowed us to have the conversation. That's why we took the step that was out of the ordinary to go to the well and to join the protesters and to chant from the House floor that that we need action. That we must protect kids over guns. That we should not be so beholden and bow down to the NRA, but we have to stand with the thousands of Tennesseans. We've had the biggest protest in a decade in Tennessee. All these high school students walking out of class. Thousands came to the Capitol, and the lawmakers refused to hear them. Refused to even let them the issue be discussed on the House floor. And so what we want is a real conversation. But instead of having a conversation, instead of allowing us to talk about the issue, they're taking the unprecedented step to try and oust us, to expel us from our seats for being the voice of our district. And what they're doing is not just silencing us, it's silencing the movement that we're standing in solidarity with. It's silencing the thousands of people who came to the People's House because they're afraid that this is a time of change in Tennessee. And so to the people of the nation, I hope that they're paying attention to Tennessee, because if it can happen here, it can happen anywhere, and it will come to another state next. It sets a very dangerous precedent.
Representative, I hear you. You know, a lot of Democrats are looking for an outright ban on assault-style weapons, and then you have Republican lawmakers saying they're not even going to consider something like that. I'm just wondering, for the parents, for the students, for the shopkeepers that are watching this story unfold over and over and over again, can there not be some sort of compromise? What would that look like?
We have tried to compromise. We've tried to, red flag laws are the most basic step forward. Our supermajority, Tennessee has some of the most lax gun laws in the nation. And there's been no conversation. The governor did sign bills about guns at the Beretta Gun Factory. There's such a worship of guns here in Tennessee. And so there's been no discussion. If members, I'm a duly elected member, my colleagues are, and our microphones were turned off, we weren't able to talk about this issue. We were not able to speak in committees. And so that's why we went to the well and spoke, took the unprecedented step to speak with the people and to show our solidarity with the people. What we need to do is we want to, this is a bipartisan issue. The people gathered at our state capitol were Republican, Democrats, and independents. They were mothers from suburban areas, and people in my district, which is an urban district, gathered thousands at the state capitol demanding action. It's a small group of extremists who are beholden to the NRA, who are beholden to the Tennessee Firearms Association, people like Speaker Cameron Sexton, who refuse to even allow discussion. This is not democracy. So they're silencing the voice of the people, and they're ousting opposition voices from the state legislature. This should scare us all across the nation.